I always thought my life with Emily was a quiet masterpiece, painted in muted tones of trust and routine. We'd been married for 12 years, living in a modest house on the edge of Portland, where the rain seemed to wash away any hint of chaos. I'm Daniel, a 38-year-old structural engineer. Steady, methodical, the kind of guy who finds comfort in blueprints and load-bearing walls. Emily was my opposite. A freelance illustrator with a wild laugh and a habit of leaving paintbrushes in the sink. Our daughter, Clara, was 8, a perfect blend of us both. My hazel eyes, her mother's untamed curls. Life wasn't loud or extravagant, but it was ours. It started with the phone calls. Emily had always been private about her work, locking herself in her studio for hours, emerging with smudges of charcoal on her cheeks. But last spring, she began stepping outside to take calls. Her voice hushed, her footsteps quick. I'd catch her silhouette through the kitchen window, pacing the backyard, her phone pressed to her ear. "Client stuff," she'd say when I asked, brushing it off with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I believed her because I wanted to, because doubting her felt like cracking the foundation of everything I'd built. Then came the trips. She'd never traveled for work before, but suddenly she was off to Seattle, then Boise, then San Francisco, weekend jaunts to meet with galleries or consult on projects. She'd return with trinkets for Clara, postcards, little glass figurines, and stories about pretentious art collectors. I'd nod, ask questions, play the supportive husband. But the trinkets piled up, and her stories grew vague. One night, she came back with a faint scent of cedar and musk clinging to her scarf. It wasn't her perfume. It wasn't mine either. I stood there, holding that scarf, feeling the first tremor in the walls I'd so carefully constructed. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I watched. Emily had always been a creature of habit. Coffee at 7 a.m., sketching until noon, a glass of wine at dusk. Now those habits shifted. She'd linger in the shower, her phone locked with a new passcode I didn't know. She'd laugh at messages I couldn't see, her fingers dancing over the screen late at night. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering who was on the other end of that glow. The man I'd become, a silent observer in my own home, disgusted me, but I couldn't stop. The truth hit me on a Tuesday. Clara was at school, and Emily was out running errands. I'd taken the day off, claiming a headache, but really, I needed to think. Her laptop sat on the kitchen table, open, unguarded, an oversight she'd never made before. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keys. Then I saw it, an email notification. "Miss you already," the subject read. The sender's name was Marcus. My chest tightened as I clicked. "Last weekend was everything," the message began. "Your hands, your voice. I can't get you out of my head. Tell me when I can see you again." I scrolled, numb, through a thread of messages stretching back months. Plans, promises, intimacies I couldn't unsee. Marcus wasn't a client. He was real. He was hers. The air in the kitchen felt thick, like I was drowning in it. Marcus. The name burned into my skull, a jagged edge I couldn't sand down. I read the emails again, each word a splinter under my skin. He wrote about her touch, how it lingered, how he craved it. She'd replied, "My Emily," her tone playful, eager, alive in a way I hadn't seen in years. "Your trouble," she typed once, followed by a winking emoji. Trouble. That's what she called him. Not me, her husband, but him. I searched his name online. Marcus Ellison, 42, a photographer based in Seattle. His website popped up. Black and white portraits, moody landscapes, a smug headshot of a guy with sharp cheekbones and a leather jacket. He looked like the kind of man who drank overpriced whiskey and called it a personality. His Instagram was worse. Shots of him at art shows, galleries, places Emily had been. One photo stopped me cold. A silhouette of a woman against a sunset, her curls unmistakable. The caption, "My Muse," posted 3 weeks ago. My stomach churned. I pieced it together. The trips, the calls, the scent on her scarf. It wasn't random. She'd been weaving a life with him, thread by thread. while I sat here holding ours together. I thought of Clara, her trusting smile, her bedtime stories about mommy's adventures. Emily had turned our daughter into an unwitting shield, a cover for her lies. Rage simmered beneath my ribs, but it wasn't loud or hot. It was cold, precise, the kind of anger that builds something instead of breaking it. I didn't tell her I knew. That night, she came home with groceries, humming, her cheeks flushed from the spring chill. "How's your headache?" she asked, unpacking apples like nothing had changed. I smiled, said it was better, and helped her cook dinner. We ate as a family, spaghetti, Clara's favorite, while I studied Emily's face. She laughed at Clara's chatter, kissed her forehead, played the part so well I almost doubted myself. Almost. But I'd seen the emails. I'd seen Marcus. And I knew the woman across the table wasn't mine anymore. The next day, I started planning. Not confrontation, too messy, too soon. I needed to understand her, to map the fault lines of her betrayal before I acted. I installed a tracking app on her phone while she slept, synced it to mine. I borrowed a friend's car, a beat-up Toyota she wouldn't recognize, and followed her to errands that took her to coffee shops and parks, places she'd sit alone, waiting. For him, I assumed. I photographed her from a distance, her posture relaxed, unguarded. I cataloged everything. Times, locations, habits. She was a project now, a structure I'd analyze until I found its weak points. Weeks passed, and I became a ghost in my own life. Work was a blur, blueprints and meetings I barely registered. Home was a stage and I played my role. The oblivious husband, cooking breakfast, kissing Emily goodbye. She didn't notice the shift in me, the way my eyes lingered, the way my questions grew sharper. "Who'd you meet today?" I'd ask casually. "Oh, just a gallery owner." She'd lie, her voice smooth as glass. I nodded, filed it away. The tracker told the truth. She'd been in Seattle again, 2 hours at a hotel near Pike Place. Marcus's territory. I met him once. Not face-to-face, not yet, but close enough. Emily said she'd be at a local art fair on a Saturday. So I dropped Clara at my sister's and followed. The tracker led me to a loft downtown, a brick building with wide windows. I parked across the street, watched her slip inside. 20 minutes later, a man arrived, tall, leather jacket, Marcus. He carried a camera bag, moved with a swagger that made my fists clench. They didn't come out for hours. I sat there, rain streaking the windshield, imagining her hands on him, her laugh filling his space. It wasn't jealousy, it was violation, a theft I couldn't report. I dug deeper. Marcus wasn't just a fling, he was a parasite. His website boasted awards, but his social media hinted at debts. Cryptic posts about hustling and owing favors. A public records search turned up a divorce, a foreclosure, a man living on borrowed time. Emily didn't know or didn't care. She'd always had a soft spot for broken things. Stray cats, chipped mugs, me after my dad passed. Now it was him. I wondered what she saw in his cracks that she couldn't find in mine. Clara kept me grounded. She'd chatter about school, her drawings, her world untouched by this rot. One night, she asked why mommy was gone so much. I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. "She's working hard," I said, hating the lie. Clara nodded, satisfied, but her question lingered like damp rot in the walls. I couldn't let this touch her. Whatever I did, it had to be surgical, Emily's ruin, not ours. I started testing her. Small traps, like mentioning a fake work trip to see if she'd jump at the chance to run to him. She did. "I might visit a friend in Tacoma," she said. Too quick, too bright. The tracker showed Seattle again. I let her go, let her dig her hole deeper. Every lie was a brick in the cage I was building. Not for her, but for him. Marcus didn't know me yet, but he would. By summer, I'd mapped their world. Marcus wasn't just her lover. He was her escape. The emails had evolved, less playful, more desperate. "I need you here," he'd write. "You're the only thing keeping me sane." She'd reply with promises. "Soon. I'm trying." You know how complicated it is. Complicated. That's what she called me, Clara, our life. I wasn't a husband anymore. I was an obstacle. The realization didn't hurt. It fueled me. I stopped sleeping, spent nights in my office, a spare room with a desk and a pull-out couch. I told Emily it was work stress. She didn't question it. I hired a private investigator. Not the trenchcoat stereotype. A quiet guy named Paul, ex-cop, who blended into crowds. I gave him Marcus's name, Emily's patterns, everything I'd collected. Discreet, I said. I just need proof. Paul didn't ask why. A week later, he handed me a folder. Photos of them at a diner, her hand on his, a hotel receipt, a voice recording from a bug he'd planted in Marcus's loft. "You're my everything," she'd said on tape, her voice soft, unguarded. I listened to it on repeat, letting it carve me hollow. Paul found more. Marcus had a side hustle, selling exclusive photos to private collectors. Not art, but something shadier, personal. Emily didn't know, or maybe she did. One photo in the folder was her, blurry, half-dressed, taken through a window. My wife, his commodity. I didn't flinch. I thanked Paul, paid him double, and told him I'd handle the rest. He looked at me, nodded, didn't ask questions. Smart man. I shifted gears. Revenge wasn't enough. It had to be art, a mirror of their betrayal. Marcus thrived on image, so I'd strip it bare. I created a fake profile, Alex Reed, a wealthy art patron. I emailed him, praising his work, dangling a commission. A series of portraits, high pay, tight deadline. He bit eager, thanking me profusely. I fed him details, specific poses, locations, knowing he'd pull Emily in. She'd be his model, his muse, just as I planned. Every step drew them closer to the edge. Emily noticed nothing. She'd come home, kiss my cheek, talk about her day like I was still part of it. I'd smile, ask about her projects, watch her lie. The tracker showed her at the loft again, then a studio Marcus rented. I followed once, saw them through a window, her posing, him snapping photos, their ease a blade in my gut. I didn't storm in. I waited. The commission kept them busy, distracted, while I worked in the shadows, laying my trap. July brought heat and clarity. Marcus sent Alex the first batch of photos. Emily in soft light, her curls spilling over her shoulders, her eyes locked on the camera. Beautiful, intimate, a gift for a stranger who didn't exist. I praised his work, wired him money from a burner account, asked for more. Push the boundaries, I wrote. Something raw. He obliged, sending images that edged into vulnerability, her in less, her guard down. She thought it was art. I knew it was leverage. I didn't stop there. Marcus's debts were my opening. Paul had tracked his creditors, loan sharks, mostly small-time but vicious. I leaked his location anonymously, a breadcrumb trail to his loft. One night, they showed up. I watched from my car as two men in hoodies banged on his door. Marcus answered, pale, stammering. Emily wasn't there. She'd been home, oblivious. But I knew he'd call her after, panicked, pulling her deeper into his mess. He did. The tracker showed her racing to him the next day. Perfect. I turned to her world next. Emily's career relied on reputation, galleries, collectors, her pristine image as a devoted mother and artist. I drafted letters and signed, hinting at indiscretions. I sent them to her contacts, vague enough to stir whispers, sharp enough to cut. One gallery canceled a show. She came home frazzled, blaming misunderstandings. I feigned concern, offered support, watched her unravel. She didn't suspect me. She never had. Clara asked about Mommy's mood one night, her small voice piercing the haze. She's just tired, I said, tucking her in. I meant it as comfort, but it was true. Emily was fraying, juggling Marcus's chaos and her crumbling career. I fed it, subtle but relentless. A hacked email here, a canceled meeting there. She'd cry in the shower, thinking I couldn't hear. I didn't comfort her. The final piece was Marcus's pride. I'd saved the photos, his art, her exposure. I uploaded them to a dark web forum, tagged with his name, his debts, his secrets. Not enough to ruin him outright, but enough to draw eyes, creditors, rivals, the kind of people who'd finish what I'd started. I sat back, watched the ripples spread. He'd feel it soon. She'd feel it too. And I'd be here, the husband she'd forgotten, holding the strings. August draped Portland in a sticky heat, but inside our house, the chill was mine alone. Emily's world was shrinking. She'd lost 2 more gallery deals, her phone buzzing with anxious calls she'd dodge when I was near. "It's just a rough patch," she'd say, forcing a smile that cracked at the edges. I'd nod, pour her wine, play the pillar she leaned on. She didn't know I was the storm eroding her shores. Marcus's shadow loomed larger now. He'd started texting her late, frantic messages I'd glimpse before she'd snatch her phone away. Trouble, she'd called him once. Trouble was right. The dark web post had done its work. Marcus's name surfaced in whispers, creditors circling, his exclusive photos traded like currency among men who didn't care about art. I checked the forums nightly, my office a bunker of glowing screens and cold coffee. Replies piled up, Ellison's in deep. He's selling more than pictures. I'd seeded doubt and it grew wild. One user claimed Marcus owed 20 grand to a guy named Vito, small time but brutal. I didn't care who Vito was. I cared that he'd find Marcus soon. Emily felt it too, though she didn't know why. She'd paced the house, distracted, her sketches abandoned. One night, she left her laptop open again. A mistake born of exhaustion. I found new emails, Marcus begging her to come to Seattle. "They're after me," he wrote. "I need you." Her reply was hesitant. "I can't leave right now. Daniel's been off." That's what she called me now. A glitch in her escape plan. I smirked, closed the laptop, let her think she was safe. I followed her again, this time to a motel on the city's edge. She'd told me she was meeting a friend for coffee, but the tracker led me to a peeling stucco building off I-5. Marcus's bike was parked outside, a scratched-up Harley that screamed desperation. I waited, engine off, until they emerged, her hair mussed, his arm around her waist. They didn't kiss, didn't linger. She looked tense, he looked hunted. Good. I snapped photos not for proof, but for the weight they'd add later. She drove home after, oblivious to my shadow. Clara's 9th birthday was the next day. Emily baked a cake, chocolate unevenly frosted, while I strung streamers in the backyard. We sang, smiled, posed for pictures like a family unbroken. Clara beamed, oblivious, her laughter a lifeline I clung to. Emily's eyes darted to her phone too often, her cheer a thin veneer. That night, after Clara slept, I heard her whispering in the hall, "I'll figure it out. Just hold on." Marcus, I knew. I didn't interrupt. I let her dig deeper, let the noose tighten around them both. The cracks widened. Emily started slipping. Forgot Clara's lunch one morning. Left paint cans open in her studio, her mind elsewhere. I clean up, silent, watching her drift. Marcus's creditors had found him. I'd seen it on the forums. A grainy photo of his loft, windows smashed, captioned Vito's warning. He'd called her that night, voice shaking through the walls. "They're serious, Em. I need cash." She'd hushed him, promised to help. I lay in bed, pretending sleep, plotting how to use it. I met Paul again, the PI, at a diner downtown. He slid me a new file. Marcus's bank records, a burner phone number, a lease on that motel room. "He's bleeding money," Paul said, sipping coffee. "Loans, bribes, keeping those sharks at bay." I flipped through, found a withdrawal, 5 grand, Emily's account. She'd drained our savings, funneled it to him. My savings, Clara's future. I thanked Paul, left a tip, drove home with a calm so sharp it cut. Confrontation wasn't my style, not yet. I fed Marcus more bait as Alex Reed. Another commission, bigger budget, tighter deadline. "Use your muse," I wrote. "Make it personal." He jumped, sent back shots of Emily. Raw, unguarded. Her trust in him a weapon I'd wield. I praised him, wired more cash, kept him greedy. Meanwhile, I called our bank. Feigned shock at the missing funds. "Must be a glitch," I told the teller, loud enough for Emily to overhear when I got home. She paled, stammered about investments. I let it hang, let her sweat. Her lies grew clumsy. She'd visit a sick friend, but return with cedar on her clothes, her eyes red from more than tears. I tracked her to the motel again, saw Marcus pacing outside, a bruise blooming on his jaw. Vito's work, I guessed. She handed him an envelope. More money, my money. And they argued, her voice sharp, his pleading. I didn't intervene. I photographed it, filed it with the rest. Every frame was a brick in their tomb. Clara asked me to fix her bike that weekend. We spent the afternoon in the garage, her chatter a bomb against the rot. "Mommy said a lot," she said, tightening a bolt I'd shown her. I paused, wrench in hand. "She's got a lot on her mind," I said, careful. Clara nodded, moved on. I didn't. Emily's sadness wasn't my burden. It was her cage, and I'd locked the door. September arrived, gray and heavy. Emily was a ghost now. Here but not, her laughter gone, her hands trembling when she poured coffee. Marcus's world was collapsing, and she was sinking with it. The forums buzzed. Vito had cornered him, demanded payment or blood. Marcus sold more photos, desperate, not knowing I'd leaked them wider. Clients dropped him, galleries blacklisted him. Emily didn't see the full picture, but she felt the tremors. "I might need to go away for a bit," she told me one night, vague, testing. "Work stuff." I smiled, said I'd manage with Clara. She left the next day. I followed her to Seattle, a 4-hour tale in the Toyota. She met Marcus at a warehouse, an abandoned husk near the docks. He looked gaunt, unshaven, a man unraveling. She handed him another envelope. Thinner this time, her resources tapped. They argued again, louder, her gesturing wildly, him grabbing her arm. I filmed it, steady from a rusted fire escape. She pulled away, stormed off. He stayed, head in hands. I waited until she was gone, then slipped a note under his bike seat. "Vito knows where you are. Run." And signed, "Untraceable." Let him panic. Back home, I upped the pressure on her. I accidentally left bank statements out. Zeros glaring where thousands once Saturday. "We need to talk about this," I said, calm, watching her squirm. She blamed fraud, promised to fix it. I didn't push, just planted the seed. Let it fester. Her phone rang constantly now, Marcus's number flashing. She'd ignore it when I was near, answer it in whispers when she thought I slept. I heard enough. "I can't keep doing this," she'd hiss. "You promised it'd be different." Clara's school called. Emily had missed a parent-teacher meeting. I went instead, apologized, saw the teacher's pity. "Everything okay at home?" she asked. I nodded, lied, felt the weight of it. That night, Emily came home late, reeking of cedar and guilt. "Where were you?" I asked, casual. "A friend's," she mumbled, avoiding my eyes. I let it slide, added it to the tally. Her lies were a house of cards, and I held the wind. I sent Marcus one last Alex email. "Project's off. Found someone better." I attached a screenshot, his debt posts, his shame. He'd feel the sting, scramble harder. Emily would too. I wasn't done. The warehouse film, the photos, the money trail, they were pieces of a puzzle I'd unveil when the time was right. For now, I waited, a spider in the web I'd spun. Emily broke first. Mid-September. She came home sobbing, her mascara streaking, her story a mess. "I've messed up, Daniel," she said, collapsing on the couch. "I borrowed money. Got in over my head. Borrowed." A half-truth close enough to sting. I sat across from her, hands folded, listening as she spun a tale of bad investments and art deals gone wrong. Marcus's name didn't slip out. She was still protecting him. But I saw him in every pause, every tremble. "How much?" I asked, voice flat. 10,000. She lied. I knew it was triple that. I didn't call her out. "We'll figure it out," I said, playing the savior she needed me to be. She clung to me, grateful, not seeing the trap. I filed for an audit the next day, our accounts, her accounts, knowing it had unearthed the transfers, the motel payments, the cash to Marcus. She'd signed off on joint access years ago. It was legal, binding, a noose she'd forgotten. The bank called her, not me, asking questions she couldn't answer. She'd pace, frantic, while I cooked dinner, humming. Marcus cracked next. The note I'd left worked. His bike was gone from the warehouse, his loft empty when I checked. Paul tracked him to a dive bar in Tacoma, hiding, drinking away what little he had left. Vito's men were closing in. Forum posts crowed about Ellison's reckoning. I sent Paul one last job. Plant cash in Marcus's bag, enough to look like he'd stiffed Vito. A setup clean and cruel. Marcus wouldn't know until it was too late. Emily's career imploded. The letters I'd sent bore fruit. Collectors pulled out. Her name muddied by rumors of unprofessional conduct. She'd rant about betrayal, oblivious to the irony. Someone's out to get me, she'd say, voice shaking. I'd nod, offer tea, watch her spiral. One night, she left her phone unlocked. A text from Marcus. I'm done, Em. They're coming. She didn't reply, just stared, hollow. I saw my chance. Clara's innocence held me back. She'd hug Emily, ask why she was sad, and I'd see the woman I'd loved, the one I'd married, flicker in her eyes. But that woman was gone, buried under Marcus's weight. I shielded Clara, kept her days bright, her nights safe. Mommy's working through something, I'd say, and she'd trust me. She had to. This wasn't her ruin, it was theirs. October painted the trees red, a fitting backdrop. Emily was a shell, jumpier, thinner, her studio silent. The audit hit, a cold letter detailing every cent she'd siphoned. I showed it to her at breakfast, Clara at school. What's this? I asked, feigning shock. She froze, coffee mug trembling. I can explain, she stammered, but the words crumbled. I leaned in, voice low. You've been lying. Who's Marcus? Her eyes widened. The name a knife I'd held for months. She denied it, then admitted a friend. Then sobbed, a flood of half-truths. It's not what you think, she pleaded. I didn't argue, just walked away, let her drown. Marcus was cornered. Paul's cash plant worked. Vito's men found him in Tacoma, dragged him from that bar. I didn't see it, but the forums lit up. Ellison's done, paid the price. Bruised, broke, or worse, I didn't care. He'd vanished from Emily's phone, her lifelines severed. She'd call his number, get silence, pace the house like a trapped animal. I watched, said nothing, let her feel the void. I unveiled the photos next. Not to her, to her world. I mailed prints, her with Marcus, her vulnerable shots, to galleries, critics, her last allies. Anonymous, untraceable. A scandal she couldn't dodge. Calls stopped, emails dried up. She came home one day, ashen, clutching a letter. Her biggest show, canceled. They think I'm a fraud, she whispered. I shrugged, said, people talk. She didn't see my hand in it, didn't suspect the husband she'd dismissed. Clara's school play was that week. Emily didn't show, too shaken, she claimed. I went alone, cheered Clara's lines, felt the stares of other parents. Word had spread, whispers of trouble at home. I smiled, waved it off, kept Clara's world intact. Emily was fading, a ghost in her own life, and I was the shadow pulling strings. Revenge wasn't loud. It was this, her erasure, piece by piece, while I stood untouched. The final blow brewed. I had the warehouse film, the money trail, her voice on tape, enough to ruin her legally, socially, forever. I'd wait, let her think she'd hit bottom, then drop it all. Marcus was gone, her career ash, her lies exposed. She'd look at me one day, see the architect of her fall, and know. For now, I cooked dinner, kissed Clara goodnight, and sharpened the blade in silence. November settled over Portland like a shroud, the air damp and heavy with decay. Emily was a wraith now, her eyes sunken, her hands restless, her voice a whisper when she spoke at all. The house felt like a mausoleum, our routines a hollow echo of what they'd been. Clara still laughed, still drew, still trusted, but Emily's absence grew louder. She'd sit at the kitchen table, staring at nothing, her phone silent since Marcus vanished. I'd watch her, sipping coffee, feeling the weight of what I'd built settle into place. The photos had done their work. Her name was poison in the art world. Galleries shunned her, Collectors mocked her, her once bright career a smear of shame. She tried to fight it, called old contacts, pleaded her case, but the whispers I'd sown were roots too deep to pull. "I don't understand," she'd mutter, raking her hands through her hair. I'd shrug, say, "Maybe it's karma," and watch her flinch. She didn't know the half of it. Not yet. Marcus's fate trickled back through the forums. Vito's men had left him alive, barely. A broken jaw, a busted knee, a warning carved into his pride. He'd fled to coma. No trace left but rumors of a man too ruined to crawl back. I didn't care where he was. He'd served his purpose. Emily didn't know the details, but she felt his ghost. Her calls to him unanswered, her lifeline cut. She'd stare at his last text. "I'm done, M." Like it held answers. Didn't. I did. I tightened the screws at home. The audit's fallout came. A lawyer's letter demanding repayment. Her name alone on the debt since she'd moved the money. "How could you not tell me?" I asked, voice steady, playing the wounded husband. She crumbled, admitted mistakes, begged forgiveness. I nodded, said we'd work through it, but filed for separation the next day, quietly through a friend at the courthouse. She'd find out soon enough. I wanted her tethered, not free. Clara's birthday gift from Emily sat unopened. A sketchbook, a peace offering she couldn't deliver herself. "Mommy's sick," I told Clara, softening the truth. She nodded, hugged me, her small arms a reminder of why this mattered. Emily's betrayal hadn't touched her yet, and I'd keep it that way. The revenge wasn't for Clara. It was for me, for the life she'd stolen, the trust she'd burned. I'd make sure she felt every ember. The separation papers landed like a guillotine. I served them on a Tuesday, Clara at school. Emily hunched over cold tea. "What's this?" she asked, voice cracking as she read. "We need space," I said, calm, rehearsed. "You've been hiding things. I can't trust you." She sobbed, reached for me, but I stepped back. "Marcus," I said, dropping his name again, watching it pierce her. She didn't deny it this time, just cried. A flood of apologies I didn't hear. I left her there, papers on the table, her world in shards. She moved to the guest room that night, her belongings a sad pile of paintbrushes and clothes. I kept the house running, dinners, Clara's homework, normalcy she couldn't touch. Emily tried to explain once, cornered me in the hall. "It was a mistake," she whispered. "I loved him, but I love you too." Loved. Past tense for him, present for me. A confession too late. I stared, said nothing, let her words rot between us. She shrank back, defeated. I leaked the warehouse film next. Not to her, but to a tabloid, small, local, hungry for dirt. Edited. Anonymous. Just enough to show her with Marcus. Her voice clear. "You're my everything." The story broke online. Portland artist's secret life. Her face blurred, but her name bold. Friends called. Shocked. Her mother left voicemails. Ashamed. Emily saw it at breakfast, her phone slipping from her hand. "How?" she gasped, eyes on me. I shrugged, ate my toast, let her wonder. The debt collectors came after. 10 grand ballooned with interest, her signature on every slip. They knocked one evening, gruff voices demanding payment. I answered, said she was unavailable. Watched her peek from the stairs, pale as death. "Your mess?" I told her later, handing her their card. She took it, trembling, knowing she had nothing left. Savings gone. Career ash. Me a wall she couldn't climb. I slept soundly that night, her sobs a distant hum. Clara asked why Mommy cried so much. "She's lost something," I said, brushing her hair. "Like a toy?" she pressed. "Bigger," I replied, kissing her forehead. She didn't push, just hugged me tighter. I'd shield her from this wreckage. Let Emily bear it alone. The end was close now. I could taste it, sharp and cold. A reckoning I'd crafted with every breath since that first email. Winter crept in, frost on the windows, ice in my veins. Emily was a tenant in her own life, paying rent with borrowed time, her days a cycle of silence and despair. The tabloid story spread. A slow poison. Neighbors stared. Clara's teachers whispered. She quit her studio. Let the lease lapse. Her art a memory she couldn't face. I'd pass her in the hall, a stranger with my wife's face, and feel nothing but the hum of victory. I dropped the hammer at Christmas. Clara was with my sister, a holiday escape I'd planned. Emily sat alone, staring at a tree I'd decorated, her ornaments boxed away. I handed her a folder. The full audit, the motel receipts, the photos, the film transcript. You thought I wouldn't find out, I said, voice low, steady. She opened it, hands shaking, each page a mirror of her fall. Daniel, please, she begged, tears pooling. I know everything, I cut in. And so will they. They was the courts, her family, Clara's world if she pushed me. I'd kept the worst. Marcus's darker photos, her voice on tape. Locked away, a threat I didn't need to speak. She saw it in my eyes. The architect who'd rebuilt her ruin. Why? She whispered. Because you chose him, I said, simple, final. She crumpled, the folder spilling. Her sobs a white noise I tuned out. I left her there, drove to get Clara, let the silence settle. The collectors seized her car next week. Repossessed, a dented relic of her escapes. She watched from the porch, coatless in the cold, as they towed it away. I waved to the driver, a casual nod, then went inside. She followed, hollow, asking for a loan. You've taken enough, I said, shutting the door. She didn't fight, just stood there, a statue of her own making, eroding in the wind. Clara's New Year's drawing was us, me, her, a blank space where Emily should have been. Mommy's not happy anymore, she said, matter of fact. I hugged her, promised she'd always have me. Emily overheard, flinched, but didn't speak. She couldn't. I'd stripped her voice, her pride, her everything. Piece by piece, brick by brick, until she was nothing but the echo of her betrayal. January was relentless. Snow burying Portland, Emily burying herself. She took a job at a coffee shop, minimum wage, her hands stained with espresso instead of paint. I'd see her leave, head down, a shadow of the woman who'd danced through galleries. The separation crawled through legal channels, my terms ironclad. Full custody of Clara. The house, her debt hers alone. She signed, defeated, her fight gone. I didn't gloat, just watched, a builder admiring his work. Her mother came once, a tense visit I allowed for Clara's sake. They argued in the kitchen, voices sharp through the walls. You threw it all away, her mother snapped. Emily's reply was a sob, no words left. I stayed upstairs, Clara on my lap, reading her a story. The door slammed, her mother gone, Emily alone again. She didn't ask for comfort. She knew I had none to give. Marcus surfaced, barely. A forum post, a blurry photo. Him in a shelter, gaunt, broken, his camera pawned. I printed it, slipped it into Emily's purse one night. She found it days later, gasped, looked at me wild-eyed. Where'd this come from? She demanded. Does it matter? I replied, flat. She didn't push, couldn't. It was the last thread, snapped, her muse a wreck she'd helped create. I'd made sure she'd see it. Clara thrived, oblivious to the war's end. Her grades climbed. Her laughter filled the house, her world mine to protect. Emily drifted on its edges, present but not, a guest who'd overstayed. I'd catch her watching us, regret in her eyes, but I didn't soften. She'd built this cage with Marcus. I just locked it. One night, she left a note. I'm sorry. I read it, burned it, let the ashes scatter. The final piece fell when she moved out. February, a cheap apartment across town, her things in trash bags. I helped her load the car, a cold courtesy, then watched her drive off. Clara waved, confused but safe. Emily didn't look back. I stood in the snow, breath fogging, feeling the weight lift. Not relief, but completion. Her ruin was mine, a structure finished, unyielding, eternal. Spring crept in by March, tentative, green breaking through the frost. The house was ours now, Clara's and mine. Emily's ghost scrubbed from the walls. I painted her studio white, turned it into a workshop, my tools replacing her brushes. Clara helped, chattering about school, her life blooming where Emily's had withered. We planted a garden, her small hands in the dirt, a future she'd grow into. Emily was a memory, a cautionary tale I'd never tell. She called once, mid-month, voice fragile. "Can we talk?" she asked. "About what?" I replied, cold. She faltered, mentioned Clara, reconciliation. "You don't get that," I said, cutting her off. "You lost us." She hung up, no fight left. I blocked her number, sealed the door she tried to crack. Clara didn't ask. She'd stopped wondering, her world steady with me at its center. Word trickled back. Emily's coffee shop job gone. Her apartment a month behind on rent. A friend saw her downtown, thin, selling sketches for cash. I didn't seek her out, didn't need to. Her fall was complete. A slow bleed I'd orchestrated. Career, love, family, pride, all dust. Marcus faded too. A footnote in some shelter's log. His name erased from hers. They'd crumbled together, a pair of thieves caught in my web. I took Clara to the coast that summer, her first trip without Emily's shadow. We built sandcastles, ate ice cream, laughed until the sun sank. "You're the best dad," she said, hugging me. Her trust a balm on wounds I'd never show. I smiled, held her close, felt the past dissolve. Emily's betrayal had carved me hollow, but I'd filled it with this Clara. A life rebuilt. A victory silent but absolute. March 21st, 2025. I sit here writing this in my workshop, Clara asleep upstairs. The rain taps the roof, a rhythm I've always loved. Emily's gone. Marcus a specter. Their world ash I've swept away. Revenge wasn't loud or quick. It was this, a slow, cruel dismantling, a mirror of their theft, turned back on them tenfold. I close the notebook, lock the door, and sleep, peaceful, unburdened, the architect of their end.